Thank you. Thank you, Michael. So here we are. Thank you. That was so good. So I thought of my talk title a couple of weeks ago, and elements of my talk also fell into place before this whole Hurricane Hillary came about. And it's very interesting how Spirit works, because boy, has it worked overtime for today's talk to happen. And I had no idea, I did not expect anything that's happening right now in our area, in our beautiful state of state of California, and whatever this hurricane is or is not. So I chose to talk to you guys about the parable of the drowning man. I thought of this. I knew I was going to have this in my talk before this. So how many of you have heard the parable of the drowning man? One person. All right. Love it. So this will be new for all of you. So for the sake of making it very relatable, there was a man who lived in Indio, California. And there was this hurricane that turned into a tropical storm and dumped all this rain. And people were evacuating, but he chose to stay at his home. And the water was rising and rising to such a point that he had to climb up onto the roof of his home because he would have died if he didn't. So he's sitting on his roof and he pleads to God. He says, God, please come save me. I'm going to die here. The water is rising quickly. And so all of a sudden, a man came by in a rowboat and said, dude, jump in. Come on, I'll get you out of here. He said, no, I'm waiting for God to come help me, but thank you. And so the water continues to rise up, and he's getting really scared. He says, God, come on, help me. And so a guy comes by in a motorboat and says, come on, you're going to be drowning in a minute. Get in the boat, come on. He said, thank you, but no, God's going to come help me. I'm waiting for God. And so the guy says, oh, dude, you got to get it together, man. And he goes, I'm waiting for God, I'm good. So the water's getting like to his chimney of his house. And all of a sudden, this helicopter comes in and drops a lifeline. And the guy in the helicopter says, come on, grab the line, come on up, I'll get you right out of here. And the man says, no, I'm waiting for God, but thank you. So as you might expect, the water ended up covering the whole house, and the poor man died because he was waiting for God. And so the guy goes to heaven, and he sees God. He goes, God, I got a bone to pick with you. I was sitting there waiting for you, and you didn't do a thing. You didn't come get me. And I died, and now I'm here. And so God says, hey, I sent you a rowboat, a motorboat, and a guy in a helicopter, and you said, no, thanks. And so God said, well, I gave you a way out, and you didn't. And it's because the guy was expecting something else. And that's what my talk title is called, What Do You Expect? What do you expect? And what's going on in this valley this weekend is so perfect because we have had our expectations messed with, haven't we? We were told, Friday there was going to be a huge deluge and we had to sandbag up and horrible things were going to happen, but it didn't happen. And then yesterday, again, I was told at 2 o'clock I better be home because it was just going to be terrible, life-threatening weather, and nothing. And then this morning, we were told we wouldn't be able to leave our homes probably because there would be strong winds and trees down and just water up to here, and we wouldn't be able to go out. But it didn't happen. But we were all expecting that, right? We were all expecting that because we trust the source that was giving us this information about what was going to be happening with our storm. And we are creatures who are so wired for expectation. We live in a constant state of expectation. When I was thinking about this talk title, I've been really present to this whole idea of expectations. And I've been mindful of my mind and seeing how I expect so much in a given day. We all do. It's natural. It's not a bad thing. We do it because it keeps us in a state of feeling like we have control over our environment, like we can predict what's going to happen, and that makes us feel really safe. If I can say I expect this, I expect that, I'm feeling safe because I'm predicting. But as we know, you can't predict anything in life. Nothing. That's an illusion. It's just something we do to keep ourselves safe and in a state of feeling like we can control our environment. But there is so much that we expect. We expect to get up in the morning. We expect that our refrigerator is going to have our food. We expect we have a list of things that we're going to be doing today, and maybe we'll get to them, maybe we won't. But we're constantly in this field of expectations rising up and controlling us and showing us what our day is going to look like, what our interactions with people are going to look like, right? We expect so-and-so to do that today. We expect when we have a conversation with this person, they're going to be argumentative with us. We expect ourselves to be acting in a certain way when things happen. It's all about expectation. And I'd like to encourage you this week to take a look at your own consciousness, your own mental activity, and see just how much you engage in expectation. It's fascinating. And I'm bringing this to light to you today because our expectations get in the way of us being in the now, in the present moment. And when we're not in the now, in the present moment, we're in history. We're just in a tape that's looping round and round. We're not seeing what's right in front of us. So an expectation is a possibility that you've empowered, that I've empowered, and assume is true, right? We were given all this expectation about the floods. We're assuming it's true, and so we're locked into that. And when it doesn't happen, something goes awry inside of our mind. What? How could that not be? They said it was going to be like that, but it wasn't. And it upsets us. It upsets our circuitry. I've had the honor this last couple of weeks not only to have my expectations about other people fall short, but I fell short for somebody. Just last night, somebody sent me a text that said I did not meet their expectations because they expected me to give them a certain givingness that I wasn't able to give them because, I got my own life to run and it's pretty darn busy and I can only do so much. But this person was really upset with me. And the old Dale would have been so upset about that. I would have been taken down and felt just like I was the most horrible person in the world. But I have to say, it was a moment for me where I saw that I am getting a thicker skin because I honor myself now. And I know when other people have expectations of me that I cannot fulfill, it's not my duty. It is not my duty because I know who I am. I'm clear on that, and I do the best I can. And so when somebody says, you're not meeting my expectations, I just tell them, I'm very sorry about that, but that's not my responsibility. And that happens to a lot of us where we feel terrible because we aren't fulfilling others' expectations of us. And really the only expectation I believe that we really should be honoring is really what we expect of ourselves, because that's really all we can control. That's really the only place we have responsibility. So Ernest Holmes says, always expect good. So I wanted to address different aspects of expectation because we teach you, expect the good. Expect this to happen. Expect your greatest dreams to manifest. And I'm all about that. I do expect the good. When this storm hit, I was not expecting the worst case scenario. I did take care of my home. I made sure that I have everything that I need, that my house is safe, but I am not sitting there expecting what the news is going to tell me about this horrible, devastating flood that is going to be happening. It might happen. I'm not saying it's not, but I put my energy into expecting the best. And I will tell you, 99% of the time, that's what happens. And so that's a good part of expectation because it's energy of drawing in your greatest good. And sometimes we use our expectation for not so good. We might have a dream on our heart, but we think, well, I've never had that much good in my life, so I can't expect the good. And Ernest teaches us, open yourself up to expecting the good. Believe it, trust it, know it. And you would be surprised about what shows up in your life. But there's another part of expectation, and William Shakespeare said it this way, expectation is the root of all heartache. So that's another aspect of expectation. And when I am walking through this type of expectation where something that I really expected was going to happen didn't happen, that's where my inner work begins. That's where I have to look within myself and say, it's okay that it didn't happen that way. Because there are so many other ways that life can demonstrate, like the drowning man, right? He was expecting God to show up in some way that he saw would be God. He didn't realize that God showed up as all these different people. That wasn't his expectation. So look what he lost in that. He lost his life because he couldn't let go of the way he needed to see something unfold. And don't we all do that? It's just natural. We have an expectation about something, we hone in, we say this is the way it's going to be, and if it doesn't turn out that way, we lose all of our trust and belief that we're able to create and bring forward into our life what we want to see. And this is where we have to really loosen up our consciousness and our expectations and trust that there is a different way for our good to come into being. Because what Ernest is saying, he's saying expect your good, but he's not telling you the way. He just says expect the good. Let the universe figure out the how. Because that universe has so much more vision than our little minds have. There's so much more ways to coordinate and bring forward our good. So this week I had an interesting experience with jury duty. Who likes jury duty in here? I know there's some people that do. My mom loved jury duty. She just said, God, Dale, if you get jury duty, go, you'll love it. It's your civic duty. You know, she had all that around it. And I was like, Mom, I do not like jury duty. And if I'll be okay if I leave this life never having served. So this week I got the summons, right? And normally, like 90% of the time when I get jury duty, I end up calling in the whole week and then I get dismissed. I don't even have to do it. But that's not what my reality was this week. So Sunday night, I didn't have to show up. Monday night, I didn't have to show up. Tuesday night, I dialed in and I had to show up. I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? And so I saw that there's this way that you can say you have like a hardship. And I did, I had a financial hardship because I'm self-employed. And so I filled out the form, and I saw that they said you can upload it, but you still have to show up for jury duty. And I thought, well, that's okay, even though I will tell you, 7:30 in the morning is not good for me. I do not like having to show up anywhere at 7:30, and I was starting to have that, I call it my inner toddler. That my inner toddler was going, we don't want to be told what to do. We don't want to go at 7:30 in the morning because I have to tell you this, I've created a really wonderful life for myself. And I used to be a 9-to-5er, and then I changed that. And now I have a way in which I live my life on my own terms, and it's absolutely exquisite because I can get up when I want, and I can get out of the house, have my leisurely morning, and still be able to be really interactive and do work. So it's really wonderful. So when I get a jury duty summons that's putting a kibosh on all that, my inner toddler gets very upset, and it was upset. So I decided it's okay. Here was my expectation. I thought, okay, I am just going to show up there. I'm going to give them my piece of paper that says I have a financial hardship, and they'll let me go. I'll be out the door by, let's say, 9 o'clock. So I get, yeah, you're laughing, you know, right? So I get there, and there's this huge line. At 7, it was 7:15, I got there early. Huge line, and I'm going, are you kidding me? Oh my God, this line, and it's not moving. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I always go to that place where I have to conjure and find my spiritual self in moments like that. And I'm going, where's that namaste energy? Where is it? I gotta find it. And oh man, I wasn't finding it all. It was just like, oh my God, I cannot get there. I cannot find everything's working perfectly. Nope, it was not happening. I just said, you know what? I'm gonna feel disgruntled right now, and that's okay. And so I was just standing there in my disgruntled manner. So the line starts to move, which is cool, and I still have that expectation. I'm not going to be here that long because they're going to see my note and and I'll be able to go. So I get to the part where you get your bag searched. And even though I had this expectation that I wasn't going to be there long, I always, I should bring my computer with me, and I got my bag that has my whole life in it, just in case, I have my snacks and stuff, because you never know. So I get into the bag check line, and the guy goes, you need to stop. And I thought, oh God, what'd I do? Is it my computer? No, your computer's fine. I need to search your entire bag. So I'm sitting there, he unzips my bag, here comes my wallet, my snacks, my lavender oil. It was so friggin' embarrassing. I cannot tell you. But I'm just hanging with it, whatever. But the cool thing was, he found this check in my bag that I forgot was in there. So somebody had given me a check, and it's like, oh, there's that check. Isn't that cool? So I found good in the situation, in the bag check. I was like, great, okay. And I told it was from July, too. I'm like, thank God I found that. Anyway, so he bagged me up, and the guy was super nice. And so I got my bag, my computer, and I went up to the jury room, the assembly room, they call it. So I check in and I go, I have financial hardship, so here's my piece of paper, and I'm, just look it over and I'll be out of here. She goes, no, that's not how we do that here. So thinking, my expectation, where's it going? It's like evaporating before my very eyes. She says, you have to fill out another form. So I fill out like the same form that's saying why it's a financial hardship, and she says, well, you've got to put it in that box. The judge is going to review them all, and then we'll be back with you. And I thought, okay, that's cool. And the person reassured me that the judge was going to be right on it. So I went and sat down, and I'm just kind of hanging out, and there's more and more people coming through. And I don't do well in large groups of people. I mean, here I do. But when I don't know a lot of people, it's not comfortable for me. So I'm getting really uncomfortable looking at my watch. And it's around 8 o'clock, 8:15, and the person comes on the intercom and says, we're going to take a 45-minute break now. And I'm thinking, 45-minute break? We just all are getting here. So, my expectation was in the toilet at this time because it wasn't happening. So I decided that I'm going to go sit out in the patio area and relax. And what I didn't tell you is that I'm working on my doctorate right now for Emerson. And I have one final leg of this, and that's to finish this test that they give to you. And I finished my master's, I'm very glad to tell you, so this is the last part of me getting my doctorate. And when I did my master's, I sat on my test like way too long. There was something blocking me from doing it. So when I received my doctorate test, I thought, I am going to jam on this. I want to get it out the door so I just complete this whole goal of mine. And so I sat out there and I thought, this will give me a great opportunity to work on my doctorate. So I got through most of the test. I finished it there. And I thought, this is cool. What a great opportunity that's been given to me. So what ends up happening is they make a couple of decisions with the jury duty thing. So the next part is they have all these other people fill out another questionnaire, and I wasn't called into that group. And so me and this other person are sitting there just ready to just scream because it's just like break after new application to fill out, blah, blah, blah. And we both looked at each other and we said, wouldn't it be nice if they just announced that if you had a hardship, you could go? Because he was in the same boat as I was. And we're like, yeah, why don't they just do that? So another expectation I set. So we're sitting there, and they call this other group over, and they say, you guys get to go home. After you finish your applications, you have to come back tomorrow. And so we get another 15-minute pause. I'm telling you, it's like, in such a short period of time, I cannot believe how many breaks we took. Anyways, so they come back on. They say, we've made a new decision here. Everybody else, you can go. So we were free. All of us who had hardships, we just got to leave. And so as I was reviewing and I was gone by 10:30, by the way, so I was really misbehaving on the inside. I was being such a tantruming toddler inside because I did not like having to be under the control of this system because I like the life I've created for myself. But anyways, when I took that step back, this is like the drowning man, the parable of the drowning man, right? Because here I was having this experience that was not comfortable for me, yet Spirit showed up because Spirit found that check for me that was missing, and inside of me was this desire to finish my doctorate, and I was given plenty of time to totally plow through it. So this whole thing about expectations and thinking things need to be done a certain way is really something for us to let go of because we are part of such a huge universe that is infused with intelligence. Call it the mind of God, call it infinite intelligence, the quantum field. There are so many different ways to refer to this field of energy that is so brilliant and remarkable and loving and is always saying yes to us. Always saying yes to us. So these deep things that are going on that might not be in your conscious awareness today, that stuff is still radiating out there in your desires. And that's what I saw. These things were radiating out in my desire field, and they were coming through in this experience in a way that I was not expecting. But how cool, how cool. And after I got home and I kind of shook the day off, I was so grateful. I was so grateful for what I received from that experience, unexpecting it to be in that way, but so grateful it happened. So Ernest Holmes says, when we learn to trust the universe, we shall be happy, prosperous, and well. We must learn to come under the divine government and accept that nature's table is ever filled. And this, to me, is the bedrock of our philosophy, of any spiritual philosophy for that matter, that believes that we are always in a place in which our good is flowing. Because I believe that about God, I believe it about spirit. I believe the table is not just full, but it's overflowing with our good. And we're the ones that block it. We're the ones that say, I can't have, I'm not deserving, I'm not worth it. We're the ones that say no. And so when we remember that the table is always full, we can start to approach life a little bit differently. And these two stories that I tell you today about the drowning man and about my jury duty story are really a testimony to where are you sourcing your energy from? Are you looking at things through your ego? The ego loves to tell us what to do. It loves to create from this field. It tells us as this is the way it has to be, this is the way you need to think. Whereas the field of God is so amazingly massive. Like Reverend Kathy said, I loved your prayer, it was so beautiful. The infinite field of possibility. When we go to that place from looking for our expectations, the field is wide and open, and we're trusting that there is this bigger, coordinating, intelligent, beautiful, loving, life-affirming energy that is bringing it on when we expect the good. Whereas the ego is going to do what the drowning man did. It needs to look a certain way or it isn't right, it isn't good. But that's a false belief. That's not going to create good in our lives. When we open ourselves up and realize that Spirit is always, always, always bringing forth the good and allowing it in ways that are unexpected, then we're in that flow of life without constricting it and making it abide by our expectations. It's a much freer way, a joyful way of living life, and it may take some practice. I understand that, because my journey in this philosophy continues to expand and open up. I'm not done with expanding my potential or my faith or my belief. So it takes just that first step of saying, you know what? I think I'm going to set my expectations aside, and I am going to open up to that field of infinite possibility and let it in and keep my eyes wide open, wide open. So we need to accept what shows up in life and have a different attitude about it. We fight with life sometimes because we don't like what we're seeing. It makes us feel uncomfortable. We don't know how to approach it or deal with it. And in Science of Mind, we give you so many tools to deal with that, to deal with the unexpected that we don't like. And what we teach you isn't spiritual bypass. We don't tell you to ignore it. We tell you to look at it. We tell you to acknowledge it. Then we tell you, is there another way you can see that sees the good, that sees a possibility, that brings you into a place of openness to shifting it, changing it, and seeing this as actually being an opportunity for you. And so it's really time for us to see what's in front of you. What is right in front of you, instead of resisting it, fighting with it, saying that cannot be, and say, all right, I see what this is. I see it. And I know that I've got within me the power and the presence of Spirit to guide me through whatever this is, and to come out on the other side feeling good and grounded and open and receptive to new possibilities. Tara Brach says this: the boundary to what we can accept is the boundary to our freedom. And I believe this is true. I believe when we're not accepting, we're in a cage because we're saying no. We're saying that cannot be. And when we're saying no, that cannot be, we're putting up a wall. We're putting up a wall to our freedom. We're putting up a wall to being able to see what is possible for us. You know, we're not allowing us. Maybe there's a lesson for us. Maybe there's a wisdom. Maybe there's an epiphany that's rising up to meet us in our life experience. I know I'm not alone in this. I have had so many life experiences that caught me off guard. You know, I told you about my mom who had a terrible stroke, and my sister and I became her caregivers for 12 years. That was really hard. That was really, really hard stuff to walk through. You know, I could have, blocked it off. I could have spiritual bypassed it. You know, I could have resisted it, denied it, but I didn't. I looked at it head on, and I saw what my mom was going through, and I knew what was mine to do, my sister and I. And it was one of the most richest experiences of my life. My heart opened up so big, and I grew to have such a compassion for all people. And the biggest thing was forgiveness, because my mom and I had not such a good relationship. It was real hot and cold. And it allowed me to see her and her heart and to forgive the things of the past that didn't really matter anymore. And I saw her spirit, and I could be there for her. And it was such a wonderful way to give to her, accept what sometimes happens in life, and not be taken down and angry with some things that appear in life that are difficult. I went through it. I accepted it. And I came out on the other side a much, much better person from it. So I believe there's only one expectation that we should have, that Spirit always delivers. Spirit always, always delivers. We just have to stop expecting it in a certain way. What I know about God and just believing in its presence, in its power, in its love, in its energy, what I know about that, when I just expect that is who I am, it is what I am, it is the nature of the universe, when I am in that state of just expecting to see it show up for me in whatever way, that expectation is always fulfilled, because I don't tell Spirit how to do its business with me or what my life needs to look like. When I threw those expectations out of the way, the most remarkable life blossomed for me, and I realized I don't need to expect the little things. I just need to expect that God is right here, always showing me the way, always giving me the strength to deal with anything and everything. That's the expectation. That is the joy of life. And that is where the amazing happens. I know that as we go through today, whatever is going to happen with the rains and the storm. But I am holding, and I have been holding, this expectation that the good is happening. I am not listening to the horrible news about the worst case scenario is happening. I am not expecting that. Not at all. If it happens, it happens, but that's not my expectation, because I know Spirit's working through this situation. And I know with Spirit, the greatest expansion and beauty of life is coming forward. And when we know that and expect that experience, that presence, that expression of life as God coming into our lives today and every day, what I know is that's what demonstrates. So I invite you this next week, look at your expectations. Look at your relationship with Spirit. Do you have that expectation of Spirit showing up for you in any way that is best? Look at your life this week in that way and just see what happens, see what you notice, and learn something powerful about you. Thank you for listening. Namaste. Thank you. What? Yes? Reverend William? You're saying what? If you would like to join me, yes. Reverend